All right, so I've won some, I've lost some, but I'm still undefeated, okay? What we program up until this computer right up here is what's going to make the difference, okay? We're going to talk a lot about the psychology of selling, how we define success. So let's get right into this. So psychology of door-to-door sales. Door-to-door sales is an art and a science. Some say there are no secrets or shortcuts in sales. I completely disagree. I spent the last 15 years dedicating my life to the craft of door-to-door sales. And what I want to give you guys is that shortcut, right? I don't want it to take you 15 years to figure out all the knowledge that has taken me to figure out. I want to be able to give you these secrets and understand the more that you internalize this material, the further ahead you're going to get with your sales career. So like I mentioned, the reason there's so much mediocrity is because we don't constantly sharpen our tools. That's why I invented these workbooks and record this training for you guys to really understand the nitty-gritty and what takes place as far as selling. So understand we get better or worse. There is no neutral, the same way that everything I say within the sales presentation will help me or hurt me. So how would I define success in door-to-door sales? This is the way that my mentor has defined it to me as far as success. We are on the continuous journey toward the achievement of predetermined worthwhile goals. Okay, so that's going to be your first three fill-ins. We are on a continuous journey, right? We are working toward an achievement of a predetermined worthwhile goal. Predetermined meaning it must be in writing, worthwhile, and we're not just setting goals, but it's the process of achieving them that really makes a difference. And next to the word success in the dictionary is the word sacrifice. So my main objective when I go to the field is to create curiosity. One of my favorite books is Curious George, right? That's a book that we read when we were little kids or our parents read to us. But the goal in the beginning of a presentation to avoid not interested is to create curiosity. I know that if I'm getting a lot of not interested, well, I'm not personalizing the opportunity and creating curiosity. So you might say, how do I create curiosity, right? I've got two strikes against me. I'm knocking on the door. They've never met me before. Well, the way I think about it is, how can I create imagery for this family? How can I paint a picture in their head? A lot of the times, they're going to react to the range of my voice, the pace, the diction, and the volume. So if I hand them something and say, hey, I don't know if you know what's going on in the state, it is very serious. Right now, I've grasped their attention and they're looking at something, and that's how we're going to get them to learn solar. But I need to create curiosity at the very beginning of the presentation. And I do that through being likable. I need to make them like me. What am I going to need to say to them to make them like me? I want to mirror and match and talk to them the way they want to be talked to. So if I can focus on making them like me, then I want to be trustworthy, because there's only one objection you need to overcome, and it is trust. I need them to like me, trust me, and I need to make it make sense. A confused mind always says no. That's what you have to understand. If I'm not able to explain this so simple enough that 2 7-year-olds could understand it, then in the back of the family's mind, when we're going through this process with them, they're going to say, hey, I don't want to make the wrong decision. I want to avoid making the wrong decision, and I want to be ensured that I'm making the right decision, because a confused mind always says no. If a prospect or a family is not curious, they will not be interested. And that's the first part of psychology when we talk about door-to-door sales. So what is success in door-to-door? The definition of closing is blending my sincere desire to serve, helping make decisions that are truly good for people, culminating in a final win-win decision, okay? Closing is creating the decision. People buy emotionally and they back everything up with logic. So if I can build the emotion, then I can create the decision. If creating the decision is closing, then that's how I'm going to lead these families to the finish line, right? I am not an order taker. I am an assistant buyer. My job starts when they say no. The process is not to the customer. The process is not to the customer. The process is for the customer, okay? Sometimes as the professionals, like I mentioned, we need to look at ourselves like an assistant buyer, take their hand and actually lead them to the decision, because I know that it's truly good for them, and help them rationalize the decision. So there's 5 specific steps in learning anything whether you're teaching somebody solar or whether you're actually trying to learn this new material. And the first step is being aware and alert, right? You have to consciously hear me right now. If you're checking your iPhone or checking your Facebook, one of my favorite lines, stop checking your Facebook and start facing your checkbook, okay? Let's get into it. We're going to learn right now, so I really need you to dial in. And you're going to do that by hearing, writing, reading, and saying these techniques. Step 2. It keeps switching because I press this and then it fucks me up.
Yeah. If you want, you can take moments to look over at this camera too. Up to you.
Okay.
Do you want a mouse that has 2 separate clicks?
No, I just do it on this side. So I don't know why it keeps going backwards on the click.
Because you're clicking one of the sides.
All right, let's just do this section over because I kind of screwed it up. We'll see how it goes. All right, ready?
Okay. Yeah.
So how would we define closing? It's blending my sincere desire to serve somebody, helping them make a decision that is truly good for them, culminating in a final win-win decision. Okay, it's a final decision that is going to be a win-win. The process is not to the customer. The process is for the customer. Deep down, I know there's no way I can hurt their situation. If I go through this presentation with them, they'll do it every single time, okay? Sometimes I need to be the assistant buyer, take their hand and actually lead them to the decision and help them rationalize that choice. What you have to understand is closing is creating the decision. And I understand that if people buy emotionally and back up their decision with logic, what do I need to focus on? Well, if I can build the emotion to be up here, then I can create the decision or I can close, right? So that's how we define closing in door-to-door sales. So there's 5 steps in learning anything. And whether you're teaching somebody solar by knocking on their door or whether you're sitting there writing in your workbook right now, you have to be aware and alert. You have to be aware and alert. Stop checking your Facebook and start facing your checkbook. Okay, dial in. Stop checking your text. Dial in to what you're doing right now. Because like I said, a lot of people think there are no shortcuts. There's a ton of shortcuts and we're about to go into it. So the first step in learning anything is you have to consciously hear me right now. You need to consciously write down. You need to consciously be reading. And you need to constantly be saying these techniques, right? That's what's going to help you get your game to the next level. The second step in learning is repetition. You must hear, read, write, and say the techniques a minimum of 6 times to gain 62% of retention in any sort of new material. So think about it. How many times have you went through a process or a presentation where the family said, hey, yeah, I just can't afford it. I don't have any money up front. Well, dude, I already told you 4 or 5 times. Maybe I needed to say it 7 or 8 until it actually registered because they aren't retaining all of that information. Okay, so these are the 5 steps in being able to actually learn, right? This keeps going the opposite way. All right, so that's good. Okay.
I'm going to raise this a little bit because I want to get a little bit closer.
It's annoying that I press this side and then it goes backwards. All right.
1 second.
Much better. All right, ready?
Yeah.
All right, step 3, you have to utilize this material, utilization, consciously making myself utilize these techniques. Once we can learn to utilize the material, step 4 is internalization, because when the techniques and strategy are transferred to my product, then they actually become a natural part of me. And the 5th step in learning anything is reinforcement. As door-to-door sales professionals, we get better or worse. There's no neutral within that process. So constantly reinforcing and sharpening the tool belt to say, hey, how can I become the best version of myself to be able to serve more? So those are the 5 steps in learning anything. And that's where we're going to start because all this information, I'm just going to tell it to you and it's up to you to be able to utilize, internalize, and reinforce. So mindset and attitude, right? We break down something called the success triangle to 3 things: your technique, the words that come out of your mouth, your attitude, what you program up here, and your behavior, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So understand this. I need to watch my thoughts. I need to understand that the things that I think about will lead to words, right? Those words will create an emotion. That emotion will make me feel a certain way, and that feeling will then make me judge myself. That judgment and the way I judge myself will lead to a decision on how I carry out my day, my week, my month, my life, okay? The things that we think about that go up into this computer really decide, right, the path in the journey that you're on. I want to take this one step further. When I can learn to master my own thinking and I can master my own words, then I can master the way that I feel, then I can actually control and master the way that I judge my day and make decisions. Well, what happens when I knock on a family's home? Well, I have this sort and sort of energy that really all I'm doing is teleporting it out of my body to them, right? I have this energy, like they're definitely going to do it. This would be ridiculous for them to say, no, I knock on the door and I'm thinking all these things. And from the moment that they open the door, they start to think something. Then they start to have an emotion. Then they feel a certain way about me, my product, and my service. Then they judge me, my product, and my service and make a decision, right? So this is a formula. There's a lot of psychology behind sales, and a lot of people wonder why 80% of the people make 20% of the money and the other 20% of the people are making the other amount. It's just because we don't sharpen our tools, okay? So understand a lot of the times we're going to let our highs get too high or our lows get too low. And what happens is a lot of the time we make emotional decisions, which sometimes aren't always for the best. So there's times where I get frustrated, just like every other door-to-door salesman. But when I allow that to dwell, what happens is you quit or you get mad or you withdraw. So I want you to start thinking about this. When we do get frustrated, what we want to focus on is being creative. How can I be creative in this situation? Because when we're creative, when we get frustrated, that will lead to you getting better, okay? So this breaks down the attitude portion of your mindset. So these are some things that I say to myself on a day-to-day basis because affirmation and incantations allow me to actually have the day that I want to do today. I mean, 15 years, I don't think it was lucky, that I've been able to find all these people and help them go solar or get alarms or just happen to always be, the top in my field. And it's because of the things that I say to myself on a day-to-day basis, right? Some do, some don't. So what? First comes the action, then comes the motivation. He who angers me controls me, right? Sales are easy. They were already talking about it. This is a done deal. All I do is trick or treat for free money. I'm going to give away thousands of dollars today, right, to people, and I'm getting paid thousands of dollars to do that, right? So don't overcomplicate it, right? Like literally, we're just helping people redirect away from donating their money to the utility company or to the monopoly back into their own pockets, okay? So write affirmations that you say to yourself and utilize that. I talk to myself in the third person so much. Let's go, Taylor. Come on, it's a big day today. You're going to crush it, right? The more that I talk to myself, then I'll control those thoughts, and that will allow my mindset or my attitude to be bulletproof and really to lead myself or create decisions to get sales, right? Now, just like there's a psychology behind why somebody's going to tell you no on the door, there's also a psychology of why somebody is going to tell you yes, okay? You are the representation for the way the buyer feels about your product or service. My focus is to be genuine, real, and find commonality. It's not what I say, it's how I say it. It's not how I say it, it's how you can make them feel. If they buy you, they will most likely buy your product. If they are confused or don't like you or trust you, they're barely going to purchase, okay? And like I mentioned, there's one objection that you need to overcome, and that's trust. So energy, right? Prospects say yes based more on your attitude, belief, and conviction than any sort of product knowledge and technical skills. Excitement and enthusiasm are contagious. One of my favorite lines is, if I go through this process with you, you'll do it. 100% you would say yes. Just all I need to do is put a line down the middle of a piece of paper. See, I'm a consumer myself, and I understand you don't even want to deal with the time of hassle of me explaining this to you. But if you give me 9 minutes, I'll go through the entire process and you'll do it. 100% you would say yes, right? It's that attitude, belief, and conviction, because they're going to find every excuse to tell me no. I need to stack up all the excuses for them to say yes. And they might try to only give me 20 or 30 seconds. They might only give me 5 seconds. I got 2 strikes against me. So I need to take the process as far as I possibly can, and that energy is going to be contagious. Lastly is service. by genuinely trying to help others, not being needy. This is what's going to lower buyers' resistance. My demeanor, I really don't care if you do it or not. This is going to happen with or without you. If you want to be a part of the program, great. If not, you're just going to end up throwing away a ton of money to the utility company. Like, sure, Bill, doesn't make a difference to me. That's my demeanor in the way that I go sell, because I'm not going to sound needy, like solar is a what opportunity, blah, blah, right? I know that I've got the better deal. There's no way they're going to be able to convince me donating all their money to the utility company is a better deal. It's just never going to happen. So you are the product and service, the energy that you carry, and the service allows the psychology behind yes. Now, what is the reason why somebody would say no? Confusion. A confused mind will always say no. You have two strikes against you. The greatest enemy is the client's fear. People do not want to make the wrong decision. They want to make sure they're making the right decision. Lingering questions. Typically, the buyer's not going to come out and tell you every reason why they don't want to do it or why they do want to do it. So I want to be able to bring up these lingering questions beforehand. Some of the 5 biggest lingering questions is, what happens to my roof? What happens if I move? What's the cost? Who services it? When do I start saving money? Those are the 5 that I bring up beforehand. Then I bring up the fact that it sounds too good to be true. Bottom line, you're going to fall into 1 or 2 categories. Category 1, everything that I just explained to you makes complete and total sense because you know somebody that's already gone solar. Or category 2, it just sounds way too good to be true. And you're probably sitting there like, wait a second, what's the catch? The catch is simple. Why'd you pick Duke in the first place as your utility provider? Wait a second, you weren't thinking about canceling the account, right? Exactly. They're America's last monopoly. You never had the ability to go from option 1 to option B, right? So that's why I want to bring up all these lingering questions beforehand, because it allows me to play offense. If somebody says, oh, well, we're moving in a couple of years. Well, I already brought it up, right? Oh, well, I have to get a new roof. Well, I've already brought it up. I don't have money to do this. Well, I've already brought it up. Well, how does the maintenance work? Well, I've already brought it up, right? Well, how much money would I save? Well, I've already brought it up, right? Because I've stayed on the offense, which the greatest technique in selling is control. The moment that you start losing control in a sales presentation is the moment that you lose the sale completely, right? There's a psychology behind this where I take their hand and I lead them through the process. I have full control in the direction that I'm going, but I make it as if they have the full control and there's an art form behind it, right? Because I'm just laying out the roadmap, taking their hand, and they're coming with me. Okay, so lingering questions. One of the reasons why somebody's going to tell you no. Number 3 is an inadequate explanation of benefits. Every buyer needs different amounts of information. It needs to be led to a final win-win decision. Explain benefits with words, picture, emotion, body language, conviction, and belief. Remember, buyers buy because of the height of emotion, not because of the depth of a logic. So different buyers require different amounts of information. That's where I really utilize the 10 pillars and reasons people go solar. A lot of the times when I sell, what I'm doing is I'm throwing jabs the entire time. And what I mean by that is I'm telling them all the reasons this makes sense. And then eventually one of those jabs hits and they're like, wow, that's pretty cool, right? And then I found the reason that they want it. And then I want to actually be able to close off of their wants. You see, the number 1 rule in ethics in any sales situation is if somebody qualifies by needs of financial capabilities, wants, and needs, you must sell them. Okay, you guys are not order takers, right? If there was no such thing as being able to build emotion and to create this, there would be no such thing as a salesman, right? But that's what we do. Is our job starts when they say no, right? And a lot of the reasons they're going to say no are because of these initial reasons: confusion, lingering questions, inadequate explanation of benefits. Number 4 is timing. This is the hardest part about what we do as door-to-door salesmen. A lot of us, I've never got a lead in my life, right? I've door-to-door my whole entire life, never paid for an ad, nothing like that. I don't know if I'm going to get dropped off on the left or walk right. I don't know if people are at the supermarket or if they're watching the game or if they went to bed, right? Or if they just came home from work, if they're upset, if they're happy, right? So that's all I do is I focus on input. This is the hardest part of our job as door-to-door sales professionals, right? When a buyer wants to stall, all that is a tactic used to prolong the final decision. We just need to help them rationalize the decision emotionally, and we need to back it up with logic, okay? So timing, one of the major reasons why somebody will tell us no. Next up is hidden questions. a lot of the times the buyers aren't going to reveal all of the reasons why they don't want to move forward. Some do, some don't, so what? And a really good line that I'll utilize in this situation is, let's say, sir, level with me. How much of what I say do you actually believe? Sir, trust is the biggest thing I need to overcome with you. It's like having a cell phone with no service. All you can really do is play games. I'm not here to play games. So level with me. How much of what I told you do you actually believe? Right? Because if I go through this process, you'll do it. Right? And having that attitude, belief, and conviction and absolute certainty will allow them to tell you the reason. Sir, you obviously have a reason for saying that. Would you mind sharing it with me? Okay, these are different one-liners that you can utilize, but hidden questions are a reason why somebody's going to tell you no. More discovery. I need to focus on clarity. Also realize I must say the same things multiple ways to really get a buyer to retain the information. If I only say things once or twice, I'm not reinforcing that material. You see, I might be talking to you about solar, then I might spend 3 minutes talking to you about the Notre Dame football team. And then once we're done talking about the Notre Dame football team, I might just repeat something that I told you before we talked about the Notre Dame football, and then it might actually register. Oh, that's what it is. Because I just want to have a conversation with somebody, right? I want to lead them to the final win-win. And the last reason why there's a psychology behind no is because no, not you, right? Sometimes it may be the perfect situation, but every buyer has the ability to make the final decision. I focus on doing the best that I can. Focus on input and the results will follow. Input, input, input. Some do, some don't. So what? Relax my thoughts and just take the process as far as I can continually. So those are the 7 reasons of the psychology behind why somebody's going to tell you no. So these are the rules of my sale. I want to break it down to the ridiculous. There's specific steps that I follow, or what I refer to as checkpoints. You see, as door-to-door salesmen, a lot of the time we get out there and we just talk. We don't have a direction in where we want to go, and we're just kind of like going like this rather than coming straight on and explaining how this would work. So my number one rule as far as door-to-door sales, my first step, is affirmation, right? Conversations I have with myself are the most important. The things that I talk about, right, will allow me to be in the right mindset to be able to create that decision or find a yes, right? So this is a done deal. They were already talking about, dude, they're getting crushed in some, oh my gosh, this would be ridiculous for them to say no. They're definitely going to do it. They drive a PT Cruiser. This is a done deal, right? And I start telling myself that stuff before they come and answer the door, right? Then they're coming up to the door. I'm like, bro, it's free money time. Right? There's free money sitting in front of me. I just need to scratch the lottery ticket correct. I'm just trick-or-treating and giving away thousands of dollars to people on a bill they're never going to cancel, right? Rather than donating it to the utility company. So all these thoughts are going through my head right as they're opening the door. Then I tell them who I am. It's very critical that we utilize our first and last names. Hey, how are you? My name is Taylor McCarthy, right? Utilize first and last name. If you guys have the state license or the town permit, I always like to put that right in front of their face because it allows me to establish credibility and authority. Hey, I am licensed to the state or I am licensed to this town, right? And I want to tell them the reason I'm there. The reason I'm coming by is like a little bit different. I'll pretty much just cut to the chase. You know how you have blank here for your power, right? That's typically the opening presentation, right? So I tell them the reason I'm there, but it's just like a little bit different. The reason why is because I want to buy more time to find the excuses or reasons why they should do this. After I explain to them why I'm there, I ask them a specific soft question, right? I don't know if you know. I don't know if you guys know what happened in the state. I don't know if you guys remember what happened last Thursday. I don't know if you guys remember last year on the ballot. I don't know if you guys noticed on US 41, all these wooden poles being changed out for metal. I don't know if you know allows me to go into the body of my presentation. And I need to capture their attention. This is a big deal, right? So I don't know if you guys know what was going on. It is serious. We're not trying to come down anybody. However, it is important. Actually, it's easier if I show you. Then I want to put something into their hand, right? Because what I'm doing is like a little bit different than every other person that's tried to talk to them about this. You see, the big problem with solar is if I don't understand this like the back of my hand, I'm not going to be able to explain it to you simply enough where it's a no-brainer, because that's what solar is. It is a no-brainer. I think a lot of the time we overcomplicate it, where we're just redirecting somebody's money that they're going to throw away into a dumpster, and we're now going to store it into a piggy bank, right? So I ask that soft question. I don't know if you know. And through that soft question, what I'm doing is I'm telling a story, okay? That story has to be a big deal. Through that story, I create a pain. If there is no pain, there will be no change. And through that pain, I find a solution, right? Ever since they introduced the new technology from the old stuff to the new stuff, and that's where I'm showing them more stuff, putting more things into your hand. After I explain to them the solution, I explain to them how they would be potentially involved, how they would be potentially rewarded, and then I go into why this makes sense, because you're going to fall into one or two categories. It either makes sense or it sounds way too good to be true, and you're probably sitting there like you either know somebody that's done this or it sounds way too good to be true, and you're asking me what the catch is. The catch is simple, right? Now I want to put them in a corner. What's the main reason you chose them, right? You weren't thinking about canceling the account. I want to build the pain. Then I want to focus on reflex, transition, assume, and close. My job's super easy. All I do today are two things. One, I show you what your bill would have been last month if you already had solar, and then exactly where the panels would be laid out. And I want to assume the close. From that point, I want to make sure that I really rebuild the rapport, okay? If I cannot rebuild the rapport, it's going to be a lot harder. So rebuilding the rapport and then understand the greatest enemies of the client's fear. I want to help them relax through that process. So these are my 5 specific rules. Clarity, you need to be clear. Repetitive, you need to have repetition. Belief, I need to believe in the deal before I even knock the door. Energy, the guy with the most energy makes the most money. And then service, right? I want to genuinely help people. And this will lead to you having an effective sales presentation or an effective sales process. Lead by example. Typically, the people you lead will do 50% of what you do right and 1,000% of what you do wrong, right? The number one rule of leadership is leading yourself, right? So you have to lead yourself before you lead others. But those are my 5 biggest rules as far as what I do when I'm on the doors. So first 30 seconds, what am I focused on? Right off the bat, hey, how can I create curiosity? How can I be interesting and unique? I think of the book Curious George, right? How can I create imagery and paint a picture in their head? Mirror and match. If it's an older woman answering her door, oh, hi, ma'am, how are you? Sorry I'm late. We did want to do about 3 more. My name is Taylor. Nice to meet you, right? Or maybe if it's an older guy that doesn't want to answer his door and then I have to triple ring him, ding, ding, ding. He's like, oh, who's answering my door? You can tell he's getting to the door mad. Yeah, sir. Sorry I'm late. We did want to do 2 more. Yeah, you guys were 4th on the list. My name is Taylor McCarthy. He's like, what the heck is going on? Right? Because I need to break that preoccupation. I want to talk to somebody how they want to be spoken to, and I want to be indifferent. I'm different from every other door-to-door salesman out there. The way that I envision myself like a prize fighter when I go to the field. The same way you need to focus on how you envision yourself, right? How does some of the top professionals envision themselves, right? It's that belief that we have in ourselves. And then the demeanor. This is going to happen with or without you. If you want to be a part of it, great. If not, it's up to you, right? It doesn't make a difference to me. This is going to happen with or without you. So those are the rules that I follow as far as sales. And then understand that your thoughts will lead to your emotions, which will make you feel a certain way. And all it is a teleportation game. I'm just teleporting my energy to the people we serve. And that makes them feel a certain way about me, my product, and will lead them judging me and a decision being made. And then 2 very important things is you need to visualize what you want and then verbalize it. Okay? Clarity, energy, necessity, productivity, influence, and courage, right? If I visualize something I want to accomplish, the more people that I verbalize that to will tie myself down and hold myself accountable. So being able to visualize something you want and then start to tell more and more people about it actually is what builds your belief with accomplishing any sort of goals or achievement of those goals. So there's 6 Ds of getting immediate results, all right? And I really want to break this down to the ridiculous because it starts with your desire or your dreams, okay? This is your why. I'm going to break down the 6 Ds of being able to scale your business, and you'll never get there if you don't have dreams or you don't have desire. Sometimes it's not about your why. A lot of the times it's about your who. Who are you doing this for, right? Why are you sacrificing so much, right? You want to be successful. There's a lot of sacrifice involved with being successful. So, there's got to be a deep down reason that you want it, and it's got to be bigger than money. So desire and dreams, which will lead to your discipline, which is your behavior. That discipline will then lead into you demonstrating, which is you executing, and that demonstration will lead to documentation, which is your story. Once you have a story and you're able to tell more and more people about it, then the next step is duplication, which is your impact, and the final step of being able to scale is disappearing and moving up to that next level, going from a sales rep to a manager to a regional to a director to a VP, from VP to an owner, right? Whatever that might be. It's called Operation Go-Go Gadget Bank Account, and it starts with the desire and the dreams that will create the discipline, which will allow you to demonstrate, which will allow you to document, which will allow you to duplicate, and then the next step is disappearing, moving on to that next level. So what is technique in door-to-door sales? Technique is the words that come out of your mouth. If your tactics are sound, they can't fight you, okay? Understand they cannot fight me. Technique is broken down to 3 specifics. 55% is body language and the way that I feel. 38% is the tonality or the sound or the frequency. And only 7% is the actual words that I speak or what somebody hears. So I want to be dynamic and I want to focus on creating curiosity within that process.